Welcome
Wait
to
a
Pop
minute.
Culture Yearbook. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then discuss memories and dig into those movies, albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad.
I'm Pete.
And
Did I
I'm
say that
Giff.
loud enough? I'll do it.
Why does he
All
do
right.
that?
I don't know. He's
I don't
trying
know.
to
I
be.
tried to be funny.
cute.
My throat kind of went. All right, I'm going to do that again. I'm Pete.
Okay, there you go.
do your Gifford thing again.
And I'm Giff.
All right.
There, much better. I'll edit all that out.
All right. So we
I'm not
we
gonna
are
do
here to
that.
close out 2020 tonight with yet another TV show. So how did 2020 end for you guys? Was it better than it started? Do you remember anything about the end of the year?
The end of the year, I actually remember being,
Remember, we
moderately
didn't-
happy towards the end of the year.
We didn't do a whole lot for Christmas still. Things were kind of going back again to
No, but it was still
backwards.
kind of nice just to have the holiday season to ourselves and the family. Not that I have got
yeah.
anything against the holiday season or anything, but it was nice to have the downtime that the coronavirus provided for us, if you know what
True.
I'm saying, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And at
So
the end of the
there
year,
was-
there was still some more of that downtime.
Right.
So time for that TV watching.
Right.
That's right.
So
Well, and I
Very
remember
low
like
key.
youth hockey was on a like 6-week hiatus, so we were kind of cheated out of a few games here and there, and so I know that it was going to be starting up after the first of the year again. So yeah, there wasn't a whole lot going on in our house.
We actually drove to Pennsylvania and did a little skiing. That's what we did over the holidays.
I remember that.
And New Year's Eve, we're in Pennsylvania. That's where we were. So
They're always somewhere.
we're always somewhere. I'm never nowhere.
Where in the world is Pete? All right. Well, we also
That's
want to
right.
welcome back in our classmates. We always like to mention them at first and give a shout out for their support and our love for them. And speaking of that, next week when we start our next year, what year are we going to do next month, guys?
1999. We're gonna
Correct.
party like it's
Wow,
1999.
let's party. Yeah.
And our first episode is going to be the debut of one of our classmates who has supported us and is going to be on. And he has picked the topic of discussion, and he picked a great discussion topic, and so we can't wait. So you'll get to meet him more next week. But we've mentioned Brian before, along with the
I
two
can't
Brians that
wait.
are sitting here with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's so many Brians.
I'm going to be surrounded by Brians.
We've had that will be Brian number 4 on
well,
the
yeah,
show.
Brian Colburn twice.
Brian Colburn.
Yeah, so
And so, yeah, that'll be
That'll be our fourth Brian.
Brian appearance, the fourth unique Brian.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, thank you guys all for that support. If you know anybody that's interested in joining you there, please do and go in and sign our yearbook and become one of us.
Mm-hmm.
One of us.
We're going to give a
Yeah.
little shout out to one of our best classmates, literally, Rhonda, right? We were just
Yeah.
talking about her before the show. She loves
I guess
listening
it was
to
a
our
discussion
show.
topic.
She's one of our most loyal listeners. So I just wanted to give that shout out.
Literal classmate.
Yes, she is. Hi, Rhonda.
I saw Rhonda just a couple weeks ago.
Lucky.
Is that
cool.
right?
Yep.
Yes. I know we talked about it before
Yeah.
the show, but I wanted to sound like a surprise. Like, is
You
that
sure
right?
All right. Well, so we are closing it out tonight. We have talked about Taylor Swift, and then we went to the Queen's Gambit and Schitt's Creek, and now tonight we're going to hit one more show that was not on Netflix, an Apple TV show, Ted Lasso. And this
Yeah.
was the one I picked,
Mhm.
and I, my God, I love this show.
Yeah. I
Gifford, I
appreciate
think you like this show too, don't you?
Yeah. I appreciate you for picking this one.
Yeah.
Yep. I very
So,
much enjoyed it.
Why did I pick this? Well, this was another one of these great shows that popped up during this time, and you're just sitting around at home. And so some of these shows, we talked about this with the Queen's Gambit, where you can like sit down and just basically binge them all at once.
Yeah.
I've never done that, except we did do that with this show first season. So I had heard about it. I couldn't tell if it was supposed to be a really good show or not. Like I couldn't quite pick up on it because I didn't know.
It wasn't supposed to be a good show.
Well, no, but see, he's based on like so Ted Lasso was like this character he created apparently just for like promoting soccer on NBC. Like it was just this little token like
All right.
throwaway character, I believe.
It's sort of like the Cavemen were a TV show,
Yeah.
you know, the Geico Insurance
Yeah,
Cavemen.
well,
that
like
became
as
a
you're gonna
show,
say, it's kind
and
of
it
like
was
an
terrible.
SNL skit that you turn into a TV show or to a movie, and a lot of times they don't work very well.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of a thought I had, but I kept hearing from certain people just how good it was. And so one Sunday morning, I turned it on, and my wife was sitting in the room, and I'm like, "Hey, Kim, I'm going to watch this show. I don't know if you're going to like it or not, but maybe you want to check
Go
it
on.
out." And so she's sitting in a chair, and she's got like a book she's reading, and she's like, "Well, sure, go ahead and watch it." And so watched the first episode, and you could tell she was starting to get into it. And we watched another one. And after 2 episodes, whatever book she had in her hand, she hadn't read a single page of, which is not uncommon. And we were hooked. And it is a 10-episode first season, and we watched all 10 straight through in that first day.
Right.
And it was amazing. And every episode got better and better. And we couldn't wait for season 2, and it took so long to come, and it was great. So
Yeah.
considering how much we loved it and the fact that she loved it along with me, this was something I was definitely going to choose. And it's just so ripe
Aw.
for discussion because, I mean, we could spend an hour just throwing out Ted Lasso quotes and
Yes.
and have a show based on that. So
There's a show. That's a show.
all right. So Giff, you got into it next. Why don't you tell us your little journey here recently?
Well, I think I got into it because I knew it would be coming up because you had picked it. So I signed up for Apple TV, and you had said, okay, well, we're going to do the first 2 episodes. Well, I can't stop after 2 episodes.
Oh, you're really good about that.
That's just not going to happen with me. So I sat down one afternoon and just buzzed through. I don't know how many I got through, but I mean, I was hooked. I mean, they're half-hour episodes.
Season 2, some of them get a little longer. They're like 45.
Yeah, they're like 45, 47 minutes on those. But that first season, and it's nothing but joy, in this whole series. It's all feel good all the time.
I don't know about that, but
Well,
okay, go on.
Well, yeah, I mean,
for the most
obviously
part.
there are conflicts, but
Right. But Ted Lasso's the character is so bubbly, and the dialogue is
I know.
so funny. It's rapid fire, back and forth, especially when he's on the screen. So I just really enjoyed it. So yeah, I buzzed through all 2 seasons in probably 3 days or something like that,
and then you watched it again already.
Yes, because I watched it early enough to where I didn't take notes the first time because I wanted to get to know the characters and kind of think on it a little bit rather than just take notes on something I didn't know. So then I went back to watch the first 2 episodes over again and just kept watching until I finished it a second time a couple days ago. So yeah.
I watched the whole thing over again too in preparation for this, and then watched the first 3 episodes of season 1 again a third time just to make sure, because there's so much to write down. And the first time I was like not writing everything down, and then I watched it again to make sure that I got all the stuff that I thought was great, which is pretty much every minute.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Pete, how about you?
So I had not historically had Apple TV, and I had not seen the show before. So the assignment was to watch the first 2 episodes, but I did get to 5 episodes because, I've got other things going on, but I kept wanting to watch it. And so that's just how far I got. I want to continue, and I will continue. My comments on it were that, yeah, it's great. I had written down exactly like you did. He's just such an engaging, great guy that I don't know if I've been so immersed in a character like that, because he brings you in. And not only that, but as the show goes on, at least for the first 5 episodes, he clearly has multiple layers, and you can kind of start.
Yes.
That's one thing that's brilliant about the show, is that you can kind of start to pick up on that early on, but then it's like an onion. It unpeels and unpeels. There's another analogy. Peels itself away.
That's a pretty common one, though. That's easy.
Yeah, I know.
Fruit there.
Okay. All right. Well,
Our standards for you are much
it's
higher.
not a fruit. It's not a fruit. Onion is not a fruit. But in any event, you do it just, and then by episode 5, you do see like a really deep layer of his character and what he is going through. I don't know how much I want to give away, but and I'm sure we'll probably get into it as we'll go through the episodes and everything.
Probably mention the big thing you're talking
but
about. But
it's a very kind of heartwarming show, and not just himself, but all of the characters are great characters. Just so many really good. Coach Beard I love Coach Beard, and I like Ted. Or not Ted, but I didn't have the name written down. Who's the guy that
Nate?
Nate? That's the name.
Nate the Great.
Yep.
Yes.
The Wonder Kid.
I did have it written down.
So I just want to let you know, Pete, when you do get to season 2, a lot of things do end up changing, and you will not expect some of the things that you're going to see eventually. So,
right.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're not going to give any major.
A very accelerated character arc on Nate the Great for season 2.
All right. Well, don't give away too much.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have even said that. That was too much. Giff.
I'm a little drunk right now, and there's a good chance I'll forget it anyway. But by the time that I get there, but I can't wait.
So yeah, as you said, the assignment was the first 2 episodes, because that's just kind of what we do, is we keep it to like about an hour of homework so we can handle it, and that's what it would be. But after watching the series over again, I was like, if you can at least get to 3, please watch 3, because in my opinion, episode 3 that's where it goes from this pretty good show that you're a little bit hooked on to just holy crap, this is great. Because that's where you really we'll get to that. So we will discuss the first 2 and into 3 episodes here, and then hopefully, if you haven't watched it, people will go watch this series. And if they have, maybe they'll want to watch it again, because as me and Gifford can attest, you can watch it lots of times.
Yeah, it holds up.
Yeah. All right.
Well, the first thing I'd like to say right off the bat, so it totally starts out with a Major League type storyline, Major League from 1989.
That's what I had written down. It's like it seems like the plot is
the
almost
first season
identical
follows
to Major
that
League.
sort of a plot.
Right. So for those,
even the owner, she looks almost just like the owner in the original Major League.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah.
So
it's the same concept.
The show starts out with Ted Lasso, who is a football coach for Division II, Wichita State. Right? Am I jumping all over you here, Brad?
I thought I was supposed to be in charge. So
okay, I'll let you take it over.
You got a fun fact about Wichita
I just didn't know where you were going. If you had so I was just wondering what was happening next.
Oh, well, anyway, Wichita State is the Shockers, which I always loved as a mascot.
What they are.
Yeah.
In real life, they have not had a football team since 1986. So this is a fictional football team. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
I did not know
that. It's a fun fact that I found as I was looking this up.
All right, so jumping back, actually, before we meet him, the first scene is where she fires the old coach of the AFC Richmond soccer team.
Yeah.
And you might not expect it from the previews or from the fact that everybody says how much of a feel-good show it is. But the show has a lot of very raunchy language, and you get that right off the bat. Because this guy, he is the most misogynistic, like, just caricature of a idiotic male coach there is.
Yeah, douchebag is what he is. Yes.
Yeah, and so you get that. So that gives you a little feel for the show.
It's like you, Brad. Except he's brilliant.
Oh boy! Wow.
No, I'm kidding.
So you get that feel for the show right away. That there are again these layers. That it's not just like happy-go-lucky PG like that kind of thing. But the owner Rebecca Welton, she just puts him in his place right away and says, "You're fired." And the reason why she owns this team and the Major League storyline comes about is because she has been through hell, basically, with her ex-husband who's getting divorced from her. And he is also another horrible male character who's been cheating on her forever, and she's got to put up with all this stuff now, people talking about it. And so she's left with the team, and she knows that this team is his biggest joy in life. And so she wants this team, even though she owns it, she like Major League, she just wants this team to fail. Not to move it or anything like in Major League, but she just wants it to fail because she thinks that will hurt him, and that's the best way to get back at him.
Right.
So enter Ted Lasso, who she brings in, as you said, from Wichita State. So he has just won a national title for Division II
for American football.
In 1 year.
He's an American football coach.
Right.
So he, he's successful in that role, but he doesn't even know what soccer is. He doesn't even know the rules. What he's best known for is this viral video of him dancing in the locker room, which I don't really think is a big deal. I mean, we've seen people do that before, but they act like this is so embarrassing that he got caught doing this, and that part I don't really get. So, but so they he's kind of a joke. People,
it was a kind of funny video.
They laugh at him, and so that's what he's known for as much as winning.
Right. Well, and one of the fun things about this show is Ted getting acclimated to just the jargon of soccer.
Yes.
Like boots instead of cleats, and the pitch instead of the field, and training instead of practice, and all of
England altogether. Not just soccer, but also London and the British speak.
Right. So all of a sudden he's got this job, and we see him on the plane, and so enter Coach Beard, another great character that Pete brought up. So he's like his right-hand man. This is the guy that always coaches with him. And Coach Beard is the one who actually does the research on soccer.
Yes.
And one of the first examples of what you just talk about is he learns that you don't say out of bounds in soccer, you say into touch.
Yes.
And Ted goes, $5 if I can work that into a sentence later on the plane. And when they have their first press conference, he says into touch kind of awkwardly, but he winks at him and he pays him $5.
He says no subject will be into touch with you guys.
There you go. So Coach Beard is called Coach Beard because he has a nice beard, and he's a very how would you describe him?
Straight-laced,
just doesn't show a lot of emotion, just says it like it is, but in like a good way. Like you can tell he's a good guy.
He's a very mysterious,
and I think he's an intellectual guy too. He's a smart guy because he's able to play chess. He finds this woman later. This is like episode 5. Or episode 4, whatever. But he finds a woman that he can play chess with without a board. Getting back to our Queen's Gambit episode, they don't need a board or pieces. They can both just say what their moves are, and they can visualize it.
And there are moments where he's reading, and Ted needs him. Like they complete each other, as Jerry Maguire would say.
Ted's the motivational guy.
He's got all the motivation. He is the guy that can be the head coach. He's the guy that can get you to run through a wall. But without Coach Beard, he wouldn't have a clue what he's doing specifically with soccer because he doesn't even.
Beard is your X's and O's guy. Yeah. He doesn't say a lot, but when he says something, the beautiful thing about those two is in their conversations, you can tell how close they are and how long they've been together because they
go way back.
They'll complete each other's sentences. Ted will say just the weirdest thing off the wall and look at Beard, and Beard will be able to understand what he's saying. Maybe a movie reference or
what they do. One of the things I love that they do is they'll like learn a new word or how to use a word. And then Ted will say, so what if this happened and this happened and this happened? And they take the word boot, for example, which has different meanings. And he said, you got the boot while putting the boots in the boot of the car.
Right.
And they can just do that with each other, or they're talking to somebody else in the office, and Ted will say something, and he'll point at Beard, and he'll like finish it off for him. And so, I mean, that's a great relationship.
Yeah, they kind of remind me a little bit of JD and Turk from Scrubs, as far as how close they are, and how well they get along and can tell what the other one's thinking.
I have watched Scrubs, so I understand that analogy.
Yeah, it's one of my all-time favorite
do that as another episode.
So they end up on the soccer field, the pitch, as they call it. Not soccer either, the football pitch.
It's football.
And we meet our next character who Pete had brought up is Nathan. And Nathan is just the lowly water boy, and nobody even knows his name. And when Ted asks him what his name is, Nathan doesn't even know what to do. Like, he just stares at him, and he said, "Anytime, I'm ready."
Well, and he's not the water man; he's the kit man.
Kit man.
He's
Yes,
the kit man.
Kit
He's basically in charge of the locker room, the jerseys, the field, the tape, the training, all that stuff. He's the everyman.
And Nate
You
is
can
not
tell
treated
Ted is
well
the
by
first one that's
anybody,
ever noticed him.
especially the players. So now he's
Right.
actually got the head coach who's like interested in him and giving him some attention for the first time ever. So Nate's pretty happy.
There's a point, I'm sure we'll probably get to this, but there's a point a little later where they're actually drawing up plays, soccer plays, and they don't know exactly what to do. And then they bring him in, and Nate has this really good idea for a play, and they're all ears. They'll take whatever they can give him, and they listen to him, and that's like a big moment in the show. He finally has some credibility, and then actually use it in a game, and that was a big deal.
Well, and since
Right.
you brought it up, spoiler alert, Nate eventually becomes a coach with them. They
Yep.
give him that position because he is such a good guy and
He knows
has these
soccer.
good ideas, and they need that.
Okay, so there's the part where they make him a coach, and the big reveal is they bring out a box with a whistle in it, and they give him a coach's whistle, and of course he goes right off and blows it while in the locker room, which is way too loud. So later on in the series, he pulls his whistle out to blow it inside, and it doesn't make any noise, and Ted goes, "Yeah, I gave you an inside whistle." It's just there's so many great parts like that in this show.
All right, moving on to the next character. So we met Rebecca originally with the other coach, but now she meets Ted. And so Ted just can't wait to meet her because like she's his boss and she hired him. And I love this right off the bat. He says Mrs. Welton, and she goes, "Mrs. Welton is my father." And he goes, "If that's a joke, I love it. If not, I can't wait to unpack that with you." And she just doesn't know what to do with him at first, but he's just in her face and does not have any shame around anybody, and will just keep going at you until you break down.
Well, and
this is one of those shows where you do have to watch it multiple times and pay close attention because you'll pick up on, because it moves so quickly, you got to listen or you're going to miss some of those lines like that, right?
Right. That's why we got to watch it 3 times.
Well, and she is cold to everyone because she's trying to keep a distance because she's trying to tank this team intentionally. So her cold attitude mixed with Ted's over the top bubbliness, is just, not working real well, but he's gonna, grind her down and continue to kill her with kindness until she comes around.
You can start to tell too, and maybe this unfolds later on in the series, but you can tell she does have a little bit of a softer side to her. Mm-hmm. She just has this front that she cannot, she has a mission to destroy the team or make it look bad. But at the same time, she does have a softer side where it's hard for her to keep that going the whole time.
Well, and really, I mean, this is why the show is so great, because every character, and you're not that far into it yet, Pete, but every character is a fully realized human, and they are all treated with the same amount of like time, and they're all amazing. And so I did a little poll on Twitter, and this one didn't get as many votes as my previous one. But I don't know if you guys saw this one, but I did a poll.
I voted.
You did. Who'd you vote for?
I voted for Keeley.
I voted for Keeley so did I.
Well. Oh, we all did. Wow.
Keeley, yes.
So I didn't put Ted or Roy Kent on there because they're like the obvious ones.
Right.
And you can pick 4. So I said, who's your favorite non-Roy Ted character? I put Keeley, Jamie Tart, Rebecca, and Higgins, because we'll get to Higgins in a minute. I love that guy.
I do too.
Higgins got 0 votes, unfortunately.
But
Rebecca won by, I think, 1 vote over Keeley. So, and the female characters too. I mean, they are given so much like, just, I don't know what's the word, power or respect that they don't always get in a show like this, especially like a sports type of a show. And so again, and every character changes and goes through different arcs and different things. And so just because she's cold at first, she's not going to stay that way all the whole time.
Well, and that same can be said for Keely. We find Keely, she's
I'm not sure yet.
well, I'm just saying that, you know, she starts out as just this Paris
Flimsy.
Hilton-esque.
Yeah, well, that's what she's
character.
supposed to be, right?
You know,
Well, she
and
says she's famous for being almost famous.
almost famous, right?
And she even says that herself. Like, she gets it. That's
Mhm.
Right.
she's in on like the whole joke.
Right. But by the end of season 2, you know, I mean, she's quite a different character, quite a different person.
Well, actually, I would compare her. Speaking of analogies, I would compare her very much to Alexis in Schitt's Creek.
Perfect.
So
Yeah.
you'll see that, Pete, as you keep going.
You're going to take over the crown as Mr. Analogy. I don't know if I like this.
Another thing in his first meeting with Rebecca that I just love about Ted is his hatred for tea. And
Yes.
the thing that he just cannot accept in England is tea.
It's garbage water.
It's garbage water, and no matter what, he hates it forever. And that's one thing that will not change.
How do you take your tea? Well, usually I take it right back to the counter because someone made a mistake.
Yes, there you go.
Well, and his hatred for tea is only rivaled by that of sparkling water.
Yeah, and then
He
spits that out.
cannot handle sparkling water.
Didn't expect the bubbles.
And we see that in his press conference.
Yeah, we're almost there because now she's giving him a tour and a little tour of the stadium before they get to the press conference, which he doesn't know is coming. So that's going to be a surprise to him.
Yep.
And they bring up ghosts somehow, and she says, "Oh, do you believe in ghosts, Ted?" And another great line, "Yes, I do, but more importantly, I think they need to believe in themselves." Because that's what he thinks about everybody. You got to believe in yourself.
Yep.
And at this point, this is where I was just like having such a hard time keeping up with the lines. That's so I had to watch it 3 times. We do meet it starts to go back and forth now. So he gets thrown into this press conference totally unexpectedly. And they kind of go back and forth. And so there's this pub, I should say, that we see throughout the whole series. And so while he's sitting there, they show him on TV, and there's these 3 guys at the bar who are like the number 1 super fans of AFC Richmond.
Yep.
And I love these guys. When he comes on the screen, they go, "Oh, look at this twat." Everybody hates him, no matter what.
Yeah.
Because he's a football coach. They hate him. He doesn't know what he's doing.
The part where I laughed was when they start calling him wanker.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "What's a wanker?" And then they do this. "Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that because I am a visual learner."
Yes.
But at the press conference, we meet another fantastic character. And who's that?
That would be Trent Krim.
Yes.
The Independent.
The Independent. You got to say The Independent. Oh, and then this is jumping ahead to next season 2, Pete. But eventually Trent is not part of that place anymore. And so Ted asks him, "So that makes you Trent Krim?" And then he goes, and then Trent Krim says, "Independent." Without the because he's
just longer. Independent.
Right. My dad loved that joke too. And of course Ted's like, "I'd like to meet him."
But anyway, Trent Krim, he's the guy who will just get right in your face and ask the tough questions, and he's going to intimidate Ted. However, based on his looks and the way you see him, Pete especially, did he remind you of anybody that we know and love from a long time ago? He's been brought up on this podcast.
Would it be a teacher?
No, it would be a friend.
God.
This guy reminds me so much of a grown-up Greeble. Josh Greeble.
Really?
Yes. So he's been to our listeners that don't know Josh Greeble, but we brought him up. He was our friend who you brought up as a person you will never meet because he is a human living.
We would love to meet him ourselves. We haven't seen him since.
Oh my God. This is how I picture Josh Greeble as a adult now.
Okay.
With the long hair and just the snarky attitude. And he kind of looks almost a little bit, and he's a writer. He's an intellectual.
I picture Greeble as being bald by now. That's my thing.
Well, anyway.
I don't know. Who knows?
What happens in this press conference is the media grills him. Trent starts it. But they all just start yelling at him, and he's spitting out the water, like you said. But Rebecca, even though she wants him to fail, there's a nice moment where she steps in and like shuts it down. And like, again, you do see that she has at least a heart because it's enough is enough for what they're doing to him. So that's a nice little moment kind of at the beginning there.
Well, and then when she steps up to stop everybody, a reporter, of course, has to ask her.
Right, because then she takes it.
About, the newest girl that her husband is with, but she's not new. She was the one that, the latest one that he was with when they were still together. And it's,
so yeah, just a little more on those two. They're like a tabloid couple because they're so famous, because they're so rich. And the media just loves her husband and just treats him like royalty and just loves all these girls he's with. And as the woman, of course, getting the short end, she is not treated that way at all and is seen as the loser in the situation. And that's why she has all this, that's why she wants this. This is her way of thinking she can get back.
Right.
We then meet Higgins, and I love Higgins. Now, I'm going to ask you again, and sorry to the listeners that aren't too in tune here. Who did Higgins remind you of? Anybody? Another friend of ours?
I honestly, not a friend of ours. I honestly kept thinking of Higgins from Magnum PI, the original Higgins, because because he was British and he looks a little bit like him, and he was kind of that same kind of character. But that's why, because that was his name. That's what kept sticking in my head.
Gifford, do you know who I'm talking about?
I honestly, the only person that comes to mind is Joel.
Oh, no. So Higgins reminds me of Larry. So if Larry ever listens to this show, he just gives me the Larry vibes. He's the nicest guy ever, but kind of like put down by others sometimes. Not that we would ever do that.
We don't put Larry on.
But just this great guy, and underneath there, he's actually really cool and fun. And I don't know. I see Higgins, I think of Larry.
Very lovable.
Yeah,
yes, lovable.
What I love about Higgins is we come to find out that his first name is Leslie, and he is what's known as a feminine junior because it was his mother's name.
Okay, there's another great line here now, and I can't totally remember. I think they're in the locker room, and something happened, and somebody jumps. And Ted goes, "Whoa, that fella looked like a kitty cat that got spooked by a cucumber."
Oh, yes. What was that?
And that's just one of the craziest lines that I love. I didn't write down like what the context was, though. It was just the line itself was just that's a line you can take with you and just go use.
Right. Oh, I can't remember what that's from. Shoot.
We don't meet a ton of the players in this episode in too much detail. This first episode is more on the coaches and the administration up above.
Yep.
But we do meet Roy. And so Roy Kent is going to be, eventually you'll agree, one of the classic characters of all sitcoms probably ever. And he's a tough nut to crack, let's say.
Yes.
He's going to be a real project for Ted.
He's the gruff, older captain of the team.
He's a former huge star who has lost a step, and the players, they respect. He's a captain, but a young buck like Jamie Tart, who we'll get to in a minute, who's amazing, doesn't think of him in quite the same way because he's not as good as he used to be.
Right.
But there's a moment where it feels like Ted is maybe going to kind of break through with Roy. And Roy goes, "I didn't know I was going to be coached by Ronald effing McDonald." But then he leaves, and Ted goes to Coach Beard. He thinks he's mad now. Wait till we win him over. Right. And that's just the essence of Ted right there.
Yes.
Nothing will stop.
I had written down, analogy alert, I had the relationship between those two players as being similar to Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers when Rodgers first came into the league, because you did have that grizzled veteran that's past his prime, and then you got this new hot shot that is, thinks he's the best one ever.
And we hate the Packers with all our hearts here, but that is a great
we do
analogy.
But that was what I kind of was thinking, because he doesn't like the fact that, and it's natural that it'll happen, that somebody else is taking over his spotlight.
Well, and what I liked about that scene was when Roy refers to Ted as Ronald McDonald. After he leaves, Ted looks at Beard and goes, You gonna let him talk to you like that?
Yeah. That's what it just nothing sticks to him. It
No.
just
He
goes
doesn't let
right off of
anything
him.
phase him ever.
God, I wish I could be like that guy.
Right?
Although we
Yes.
find out, of course, there's more to him later. I mean, he's not perfect. Keeley, we mentioned, and then Jamie Tart. So Jamie is the young superstar, and Keeley is his girlfriend, and she's a little older than him.
Yep.
But
Mhm.
they are a couple. He wears a hat that says "Icon" in all capital letters. He has no shame, but they're just a perfect couple, seemingly at the beginning, because they're all about status and looks and everything. And
Yep.
like you said, she's like a Paris Hilton type, and so they seem like a good couple. We don't get to see them too much
No.
in this episode
but
here.
just to give you an
Let's
idea.
clarify a little bit though, because you say Paris Hilton type. I mean, she has that kind of a spotlight, but I think that her character is more. She's a more genuine.
Yeah. Oh,
character
she's
than
very
Paris
self-aware.
Hilton.
Yes.
Yes.
Even at the beginning, even before she
she's very
starts to.
likable.
Yes, she is 100% likable right off the bat, even when she's with Jamie there. So the episode's almost over here. Ted needs a ride home, and so him and Coach Beard have to pile into Nate's tiny little car that barely holds anything, and Rebecca's getting in her car where she has a personal driver every night.
Yep.
And I just love Ted. So they're going away, and he's on this side where Rebecca is, and he says, "Hey, Rebecca, look at me! I got an invisible steering wheel," because he's on the wrong side of the car.
Right.
And the jokes just never stop. He just keeps beating her down. But
Yep.
the call or the episode does end with him talking to his wife on the phone, and we start to learn about what's really going on here. Because you might be wondering, why did he take this job? If he was successful and he absolutely knows zero about soccer, why would he move across the ocean to do this? And we find out that him and his wife are separated, having some pretty big troubles, and she needs space, and that's why he took this job, was to give her that space. So we get a little bit of a serious moment at the end there.
Yep.
The heartwarming moment, and when I think this is at the beginning of episode 2, but we find that his son sends him a Ziploc baggie full of toy soldiers, right? And maybe this is
And
at
that
the
care
very end of
package.
episode 1. It's a care package, right? But at
Yep.
some point here, it's a
I think it's
Ziploc baggie
later
of toy
on.
soldiers. No, it's in one of those two. I think it's in episode 2 where he starts handing them out a little bit.
All right.
Because
I don't have it
he-
anywhere
they-
on my list here. I'm
He
surprised.
wanted him to feel protected, and so that's why the son sends him these toy soldiers to help protect him. And then it's very touching when he starts giving them to Rebecca,
Give them to
the
Rebecca.
owner. He gives one to Rebecca, and she puts it on her desk and has it pointing at the door because the media is all over her.
Right.
Because
That's why he gives it
of
to
the
her.
press conferences, and so he gives her one, and then he also gives one to one of the players, but then he
gives
can't
one to
accept
Jamie
it
later
because-
too. I don't know if you've seen that yet, but they keep
No,
coming
I don't
up
think so.
throughout.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it seems like it. But one of the players cannot accept it. He appreciates it, but he
Oh,
cannot
that's Sam,
accept
yeah.
it because
Yep.
it's American imperialism that he is opposed to. But
Being
it's
from
still very
Nigeria.
yeah, it's very sweet though, the way that he does it.
All right, so in episode 2, it starts with him and Coach Beard meeting in the morning on the walk to work, which we see quite often. But we see two people that are very minor characters, but do have an important role later in the season at some point. So there's this girl soccer player that he keeps running into, and then there's this guy playing music in the park too, and that actually pops back up later in a pretty important way. So it's these little touches when you rewatch it, you notice like, oh yeah, this is where that all came from. So, but he gets into Rebecca's office and he gives her these biscuits, which is what they call cookies in England, and he wants to have biscuits with the boss. And she
Every
is not
morning,
interested because she does not want that. She is not interested. He forces her to eat a biscuit, and she does realize they are amazing. So then she likes the biscuits, but then unfortunately opens the door to him bringing them back, which she doesn't want.
Right.
So he says, no, I won't bug you. But she says, Pete, I'll let you finish this one. She says, you're going to show up tomorrow with biscuits, aren't you?
What did
I
I?
wouldn't-
sorry,
I wouldn't
Well, you
bet on it.
texted this. I
Did
would
I?
not bet on
Okay.
that. Unless
Oh,
you want
that's
to win
right.
a buttload of
Unless
money.
a buttload of money, yes.
Because of course he's coming back.
He's so
So-
folksy.
One of the lines I have from this episode, I think it was right away in the morning when him and Beard are walking to work, and he gives Beard one of his little word muses, or however you say that, where he asks him,
Interesting word
Yes.
usements he structures.
yes,
Yes.
and he asks him a question like, if I was doing such and such and this and that, and Beard has to figure out what it is, and the phrase that he's looking for is, you'd be in cahoots with Puss in Boots, playing lutes for prostitutes, reading Roots.
And you can't even keep track of what Ted is saying to him,
Right,
but Beard hears it all and knows exactly what he's trying to do.
right.
It's the same thing as that thing where he said, "What would happen if you got fired while you were packing your cleats in the back of your car?"
Right.
And that was the earlier one.
Yeah.
It'd be, "You got the boot while putting your boots in the boot."
Right. Right.
But yeah, that one was even better because it was so long and had so
Well,
many
and
rhymes.
that just goes to, if Ted makes a reference to something, Beard knows exactly what he's talking about, can follow his logic, and
Mhm.
those guys are like peas and carrots.
Mm-hmm. All right, so then he asks Nate to make a suggestion box because he wants to have the guys say things that they maybe wouldn't want to come up to him and say as a coach. And Nate has made this little suggestion box with his niece, and so it looks like a little kid's thing you'd make for Valentine's Day. And Nate's explaining it to him,
Yes.
and Ted's like, "I didn't really need to know all that, but I do love getting glimpses into your personal life." Keeley jumps in, or they're out in the, or do you have something else there?
Not related to that. Go on.
Okay, well then they're out in the parking lot, and Keeley jumps in and says, "Would you rather be a lion or a panda?" And there's lots of good things here because Ted says what he says, and then Rebecca, like, who doesn't really want to be involved, but then she like gets mad because she gives the wrong answer, and she's like, "No, you're a lion. You got to be a lion because of this, this, and this." But my favorite part here is Ted then asks Jamie, "What would you like to be?" And Jamie goes, "Coach, I'm me."
Why would I want to be
Ted
anything
goes,
else other than me?
"I'm not sure you realize how psychologically healthy that is." Ay, ay, ay.
Well, and
All right.
Jamie, just to add on to how much Jamie really does love himself, in the Christmas episode in season 2, they're doing a Secret Santa, and of course he didn't buy a Secret Santa present for
Mhm.
anybody, so they all help him in the office and put something together and hand it to him, and he looks at him and he says, "God bless me, everyone."
Yeah, that's a great line too.
I mean, he's such a piece
And
of
Jamie is, but again, he's the most likable piece of crap
crap. Yes.
because the way he delivers his lines, and he's got this little different, like more like Cockney type accent, and he's awesome.
He is.
And there's more to him, of course, too. You'll learn
Right.
that later on.
Yep.
He meets the girl
Yeah,
playing
so-
soccer again, and this is another great line. He said, "She's like the Tasmanian devil, except with all that." And I can't.
Ooh, ah, 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 ah,
That's so good.
The quote that I thought that he had was that really kind of resonated, because it just showed it's not a funny quote, but it's a good quote for a coach to say when he says to Jamie, and I had written down, this is episode 2, but he goes, "I think you're so sure that you're one in a million, you forget that you're one of 11."
Yeah.
And so that that was, a
'Cause
line
that's-
that I think kind of hit home with him. It was kind of a turning point.
Well, yeah. Well, kind of. We get to that here in a second because it kind of works both ways.
Right.
What gets to that? So first of all, we learn he's going to have lunch with Higgins
Oh my God.
when he's in Rebecca's
Yes.
office. Do you know? And Higgins so excited, but he has to kind of hide it because Rebecca doesn't really like it. And Ted leaves, and Higgins goes, "See you later." And is this what you're laughing at, Giff?
Yeah.
What does Ted do?
So Ted had just walked out the door,
He's
just
gone.
walked out and closed the door behind him, and Higgins yells, "See you later," and Ted bursts through the door, like almost
Yes.
rips it off the hinges and runs back in and just looks at Higgins and
Points at
and goes,
him.
Yes.
Yes.
Because he's understanding. Here's a guy who gets me, and
Yes.
and we have a thing together. Like, so he is connected with Higgins, and he absolutely loves that he's connected with Higgins. But the way he bursts back through the door actually scares Rebecca when he comes back.
Well, he, like you said, he almost tears the doors off the hinges.
But he's just so excited
man.
that somebody connected with him in a way that he gets.
There's another press conference, and they're still grilling him on the rules of soccer. And another great line, they ask him to define offsides. And he says, well, I'm going to put my definition like the U.S. Supreme Court in whatever case. It's like porn. You know it when you see it.
Right.
Because he still can't define
You
it.
can't explain what it is, but you know it when you see it.
Right.
He still, everybody thinks that's cute, and he changes the subject. Oh, this is where you're right, Pete. I do have it written down. He gives Rebecca the army man here because the media gets on her again in that same press conference. So you are totally correct.
Of course.
Okay, now we're getting to Jamie a little more so he talks to Keely about Jamie because he's having no luck with Jamie because Jamie is, so into himself. So he asks Keely, how do you break through to this guy? And she says, well, one thing that works is positive reinforcement. So he chats with him after a game and he turns it all positive and it looks like he's going to make progress with him. So there is that little breakthrough for a second there. But then they lost the game and they're celebrating Sam's birthday afterwards. And Jamie doesn't really like that. And Trent Krim catches him in the parking lot.
Yep.
And Jamie's going to go home and just kind of let it be. But then he turns around and he says, no, they're in there eating cake and I'm pissed off and this isn't right. And so that little breakthrough moment he had is lost like right after that there.
Right.
But maybe it's stuck, subconsciously.
Right. And the whole point of the party, win or lose, because again, Ted's not so concerned with wins and losses, is he's trying to have this player, Sam, who's from Nigeria, is away from his family. He's like 20 years old.
Yeah.
He wants to make him feel comfortable and included. And he finds out
he's
that
another
it's his birthday.
Great talent. Like he's Jamie level type of talent, but he doesn't have the confidence and he's not showing it. And so he's working to get him to that level now because he knows he's got it.
Right. So he's not as concerned about that they just lost. He just wants to bring his team together and have that moment of, camaraderie and, team building.
While he's talking to Keely, then this is also the big conflict setup. So Rebecca has hired somebody to take pictures of them to try to kind of trap them. And so they're sharing kind of like a hamburger while she's doing her lion or panda modeling gig. And they get pictures of him wiping ketchup off of her mouth because they think that if these pictures get published, it's going to send Jamie into this rage and it's going to make Ted look terrible and it's going to create all this controversy. And that's what Rebecca wants. So episode 2 ends with Rebecca getting these pictures and then what is she going to do now with them and what's going to happen next? So it ends again with another kind of serious moment of conflict.
Well, the other thing that this episode ends with, so Ted has been bringing these biscuits to Rebecca for biscuits with the boss.
And Hagen's job is to figure out where they came from.
Figure out which bakery these came from. But we see Ted in his kitchen at home making these biscuits specifically for her. So
every night.
He doesn't go out and buy them. He makes them himself.
Which seems pretty predictable that we would know that. But yeah, once you see it, it's again, it's just that this is a guy who is doing everything he can to make these connections and taking his time.
Yep.
All right, so the homework was those 2 episodes, but if we can kind of run through episode 3 again, I feel like this is where the show hits a new level. What do I got here? I wrote down this episode starts with no, the song "Cannonball" by the Breeders is playing at the beginning of this episode, which was one of my favorite '90s songs that we talked about, and I wrote because I love that. That hooks you right off the bat. Yep. But here, so Nate, Pete, you brought up how Nate turned in this play. This is it here. And Nate's kind of he doesn't really know what to say, and he kind of backs off. And Ted goes, I couldn't hear you. I have a hard time hearing people who don't believe in themselves.
Right. And then doesn't he say what he wants to say? And then they're like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, what are you yelling at me?"
Yeah. Because he just said because Nate's still talking.
Now he
very
believes in
quiet.
Right.
himself.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just a couple other good lines. So we talked about
God, this
Ted
character is
and Beard rhyming. Keely also is rhyming. She's like predicting the headlines that are going to be in the paper because she finds out about this picture.
Yep.
And she says, "I'm as cute as a button and I can rhyme my ass off." And her and Ted, of course, are having great because he just loves these headlines she's coming up with.
Did you write down the headlines?
I don't have that now.
Oh,
well,
shoot,
no.
I can't
One of them was
remember.
something about Jamie Tart's tart breaks Tart's heart.
Yes.
That was like the first. But,
Yep.
but then she went on and did like one or two more after that.
Mm-hmm.
Tart's tart breaks Tart's heart. Rebecca did something that kind of intimidated Ted, and he goes, "I'd hate to see you and Michelle Obama arm wrestle, but I wouldn't be able to take my eyes off it either." This is where we meet the players much more, though. This is why I think the episode adds more because we meet the characters, the players more. This is where we learn how Nate's getting bullied, and Roy wants Ted to intervene because he's the coach. And Ted refuses because that's not how he operates. And he wants the captain, he wants Jamie or Roy or somebody to take care of it. And Roy doesn't want to, but eventually he gets all upset. And of course, he confronts Jamie. And you can't do it here, obviously, on audio, but I love Jamie's face. It's like he says something to him and he gives him that confused look like,
you nailed it. You cannot see
thank
it,
you.
but Brad just nailed it.
Thank you. But again, Jamie, like his physical, like the way his faces and stuff are just awesome. But Jamie first kind of fakes it and says he'll talk to him, but he doesn't, and they keep making fun of him, and it builds until Roy has to step in, and it gets physical, but it's what they needed. So.
Well, and that's another great dichotomy between Roy and Jamie is Jamie has all these facial expressions, which are great.
Roy has none.
And Roy has none. He's a stone. Like there's just, he is always pissed. He if he doesn't say something, he at least growls at people, but he's just such a gruff character.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the difference between them is quite stark.
Although there is a moment here where Roy gets all mad at Ted and he's talking to Keely and he does a Ted impression, which is way out of Roy's wheelhouse. Right. And it's the first impression. I'm Ted Lasso. He's doing finger guns. And Keely just goes, "Wow, you are really bad at impressions." But we do see Roy a little bit different at that moment there, which is hilarious. Because he's doing a Southern accent and
right.
Whew. So Nate's big play utilizes Jamie as a decoy, which of course doesn't make Jamie very happy when he realizes that, even though it's a successful play that they're working on. And Roy here, this is where he's really mad, and this is another good one, because somebody asked if he thought it was funny. Like Jamie said, "Do you think that's funny?" And Roy goes, "I thought it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. I thought it was funnier than Step Brothers. That scene where the bunk bed collapses, I used to think that was the funniest. But now I'm going to have to rethink the order of what I think is the funniest." Right? And he's just saying it right in Jamie's face there and just staring him down.
But he says
Roy has some really good moments here.
Right. But he says it in that just "I think that's the funniest thing I've ever seen." Just that, you're thinking he's going to start laughing, but no, it's all deadpan. Just great.
Keely says to Roy in this episode, because he's talking about her and Jamie, and she says, "Didn't your ex-girlfriend steal your Rolex and sell it for drug money?" And Roy goes, "I don't need a phone and a watch." Hey. All right, but they have a little talk at a school. So first of all, he's getting interviewed by Trent Krim.
Well, and this was set up by Rebecca because
she thinks it's going to make him look like a fool.
Right, because she can't release the photos now because Keely and Ted brought it to her.
They found out about it, and she had to act like she didn't know and had him stopped.
Right. So she, instead of that, now she's going to sick Trent Krim on him.
Trent Krim, the Independent.
To try to make him look bad because, he's a bulldog of a reporter and will make him, just be
so he spends the day with them, and they go to this elementary school And he's introduced as Ed Lasso. That's how much respect he has.
Right.
But this is big because Roy comes with, and we meet Phoebe, Roy's niece, who becomes a great ongoing character too, and see that Roy has this heart because he loves his niece.
Yep.
And so you wouldn't expect him to go talk to these kids and give all this time, but he does it because of her. And there are so many great little scenes here. They're doing headers, and Ted jumps in, and and then he gets a bloody nose because she kicks it right in his face. But it's all this sweet stuff that Trent Crimm gets to see.
Yep.
And eventually the episode ends with this. Leslie is reading the article to Rebecca, and it's just talking about how great Ted is and how he just wore down Trent, and he thinks he's going to be a huge failure, but he still respects him and is rooting for him because he has won him over.
Yep.
And if you win over Trent, you are something else.
Yes.
Anyway, I don't know. You can add what else you want here, but I like this episode because this is where we get Nate's involvement starts to step up. You get Roy and Jamie butting heads. Roy's character, you don't meet him a whole lot in the first 2 episodes. This is where he becomes the Roy Kent that people know. There's another great scene where he gives everybody a book. They get a gift of a book.
Ted
Jamie, and every book is specifically chosen for something that's going to connect with that
for their
player.
personality or something. Yeah.
Jamie opens it up and throws his in the garbage right away. And Roy doesn't like it, but eventually he's reading it to his niece. and he gets to some line where he totally realizes why he got this book and why Ted knows what he's talking about. And he just stops and he looks up and he just yells his favorite word.
The F-bomb.
And he just yells but it's because he knows this guy gets it and he got through to him.
Well, it's a leadership book. It's about the main character. It's all about her trek to leadership. I can't remember which book it was that he gave her.
It was A Wrinkle in Time.
A Wrinkle in Time, yeah.
And even because he brought it up when Trent was there, and Trent even said, "Oh, it's a great book of blah blah blah," and he supported it. Also in this episode, we didn't really mention, but Keely and Rebecca start to form their bond, which is a huge part. And at first, Keely's all intimidated, but that starts to change here, and that becomes a big thing. So all these character arcs and changes, I think, really take off in this episode, and that's why.
Well, and
watch this series, get through episode 3, and if you're not hooked, I don't know what's wrong.
Keely does a great job of really breaking down Rebecca's walls because of how crazy Keely is. Is this the episode where
she's kind of like Ted in that way, where she'll just get right in your face and just say whatever?
Yep. But Rebecca really has no reason to hate Keely. No. Right? Like, she wants Ted to fail so it'll kill her husband that the team's doing bad, but she likes Keely. Is this the episode where she shows her the pictures where Rebecca's topless?
Oh, yeah, and Keely just goes off on how great
your prints are fantastic.
Right.
And Rebecca smiles and she can't help it.
Right. Because Keely's just so bubbly and so kind to her, and but at the same time it's so off color, the things that she says, Well,
again, going back to that very first scene, this show is not for little kids. It is, the language they use is adult, and it's great, and it's just so fitting. The one other thing that happens while they're reading that article, it's kind of like a montage going back and forth. And this is where Roy goes to the bar where Jamie and all the young players are, and he confronts him about the bullying right there. And the first guy tries to stop him, and he just headbutts him, knocks him to the ground. And then you also see, as he walks away, the little glimpse in Keely's eye of how impressed she is with Roy for that moment there. So there's just all these little things.
Yep.
So. All right. Pete, you brought up episode 5. Episode 5 ends with just, again, the emotions of the show. It's if you don't cry at the end of episode 5, that's another one. It's just so unbelievably sad. Him and his wife talking, and you get more into that.
There's a lot going on in the episode. It's a very happy episode because at first, because it's the first game that they actually win, and the way that they win it is that they. He takes out his best player, which is Jamie Tart, who has scored 2 goals. And but he was being too cocky, and everybody hated him and everything, and he was just being arrogant on the field. So he takes him out of the game after he had scored 2 goals, which is,
Huge.
in a soccer game, that's ridiculous.
Right.
So, but then they went on to win. By the way, he went upstairs during the game. He walks all the way upstairs, up the steps in the stadium to go check with the owner if this was okay, if he took him out of the game, because that's what he wanted to do. And she's like, well, you're the coach, or you're the manager.
And she, of course, thinks it's a great idea because she's still bent on.
She wants the team to fail. So yeah, go ahead.
Structure the team, right?
Take out your best player.
Yep.
And so he does that, and the crowd doesn't know what's going on, and they all think he's a wanker. But they go on to win the game, and so it's a big moment of celebration. But the flip side of that is that at the end of the episode, spoiler alert, this is where he realizes that it's not working out with his wife, who is in London now. The wife and kid are in
London.
They had
came
to visit.
And they watch the game.
That's what makes it more sad. It's face to face.
They're on like a city sidewalk, and they're having this conversation, and they both know that this marriage is not working out, and he cannot let it go. And his thing is that he had never quit anything in his life. And then what she says, don't think of it as quitting. You're letting me go.
Yeah.
And so then sadly, she just walks away, and that's how the episode ends. And and then he sits on the bench next to Beard, and they both just have a beer together. Yeah. Coach Beard.
I don't want to really get into too many other details of the season, but I just want to mention the last episode of the season 2 with Roy's character in that last episode is just, again, fantastic. The way the game they're playing finishes, and just when you get there, you're gonna just love that too, because that's the big key moment for Roy as far as his career goes.
Well, and the end of that episode also has a tie back to Major League, because at the end of that episode, Ted Lasso, his line is, we'll have to win the whole fucking thing. Yeah. So it's the first time that he has ever sworn in the show, because he never swears. Everybody else around him, it's F-bomb after F-bomb and just vulgar language, and he never swears.
And that line had to be in there intentionally. I knew it from the time he said it.
Yep.
They got to be aware of that. So it was pretty awesome.
And he's a huge fan of, the movies he's our age, so he's has reference after reference.
Well, yeah, but I'm just talking about the writers, putting it in there and everything. And then because it's such a blatant, connection to that movie,
right?
You would so.
Well, and then the outro music for that episode is a French song that was also in Bull Durham.
Interesting.
Yeah. So tie into another baseball movie.
All right, so again, I picked this series because, frankly, I feel like this first season of it may be the finest single season of TV I've ever watched. It just amazed me. I loved it. There's a lot of other shows I love. There's a lot of great seasons out there. But for 10 episodes, I feel like it was basically perfect all the way. And I love season 2. Season 2 is also very good, but we're not going to talk about that tonight. It's got a couple great episodes. You mentioned there's a Christmas episode in there. There's one that is a whole homage to rom-coms.
Yep.
Because Ted loves rom-coms. And there's a scene with Roy in there to a Rolling Stones song that I think is one of the greatest scenes I've ever seen. Oh, my God. I want to go watch it right now. So the whole series is amazing. But that first season is like perfection. And so.
All right.
Good.
I hope that people agree and watch it.
I'm sure they will. They've never disagreed with our episodes.
Do you have anything else to add about this before we wrap up our last thing?
Be a goldfish. That's all I've got to say.
Yes. Yeah. Sam, be a goldfish.
You know why the goldfish is the happiest animal in the world?
10-second memory.
It's a 10-second memory.
That's right.
Be a goldfish.
I would have remembered that line, but I'm a goldfish.
There you go.
All right. So we talked a lot of TV this month, or this year. Well, this month, for this season, for this year. And so we decided this would be the time to end with our top TV of 2020, because last week we did music and that went off like a big wet blanket. So we saved the best stuff of the year for this last one. So Pete, what's your top 5 of the year?
I'm going to start from the bottom. The Pandemic Classic. I cannot watch season 2. I tried to watch season 2 and it was just terrible. It was lame. It's a kind of a one-hit wonder, one season wonder, I should say. But I did enjoy Tiger King. That's my number 5. And that was kind of what everybody was watching at the very beginning.
It was
of
the original one.
It was the perfect timing. It came out right at the end of March.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
Also, during the pandemic, this isn't really a 2020 show, but we got into it and watched the whole everything that was available in 2020 because we were home. And it kind of skipped over, and everyone's just kind of waiting for the next season. Stranger Things is what we because it meant a lot to us in 2020.
It's coming.
And then, they've been saying it's coming for like a year and a half on Netflix.
I thought there was a date now. It's
pushed back.
They have a trailer. There's a trailer out now.
Yep.
For the next season.
Another 2021 that was just introduced to me a couple of weeks ago because of this show, Queen's Gambit. I put this one on my list because it was that good. Number 2 on my list was, Brad, I'm guessing you probably have this one, Cobra Kai. It came out in 2020.
No, I don't know. That came out before 2020.
I thought I had that season 1 was in 2020.
No, I think it came out in like 2018, actually. We talked about that on a trip to Fargo, Pete, back when we were running marathons.
Really? Well, in any event, we really started watching it in 2020.
That's fine. Cobra Kai started in 2018.
Oh, well, then season 2 or 3 was in.
However, here's what might be. So you had to watch it on YouTube TV or YouTube like Red. Maybe it entered onto it. When it joined Netflix, might have been 2020.
I was looking up on Netflix, and that's where I
had
got
watched
confused.
it already. But
the
that's when it
auditors
took off
after
because people found it on Netflix. So that's probably what happened.
Pete, the auditors are going to come after me too when I do my list. So don't worry about it.
It's okay.
That's a great choice. We just nailed it.
Yep.
My number 1 show is one that we talked about enough last week, and that was Schitt's Creek. That's the obvious, far and away choice for me on this list. So that is my list. Let's turn it over to Gifford.
All right. Well, I've got a few honorable mentions. You had already mentioned the Tiger King, and that one I definitely got into as well. Not that it was a great show. You just sat there and watched it with your mouth agape and going, oh my God, what is going on in this? Like, it was just craziness. I also watched The Flight Attendant. That was all right, but it wasn't one of my favorites.
Which comes back out again, season 2, this Thursday.
And also The Good Place finished up in 2020. I've been watching that the whole way through. These two would be higher on my list, but I did not watch them in 2020. But I have to mention Ted Lasso, which I love now, but I didn't watch it then, and Yellowstone. So the shows that I watched in 2020 that are on my list, at number 5, The Umbrella Academy. It's kind of a superhero type show on Netflix. My number 4 was The Mandalorian. Number 3, The Boys. I believe the second season of The Boys came out in 2020. And then Queen's Gambit at 2 and Schitt's Creek at number 1.
Okay.
Nice.
A couple different ones. My number 5 is one that you guys would like as well. It's What We Do in the Shadows. It's on Hulu. It's about vampires, and it's hilarious.
Well, I tried to watch the movie, and I couldn't get through it.
So people love the movie. I didn't like the movie as much. So my son and I have been watching this, and we watched, the movie wasn't out yet or wasn't available. We watched the whole first season or 2 seasons, I think, and then we watched the movie after that. And I didn't really like the movie all that much.
Oh.
But I love the show, and the guys that, well, not just guys, girls, but the vampires, they are hilarious. So I don't know. You might want to try it. It's on Hulu.
Okay.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine is the network show that I have down. That was the second to the last season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I love that show. I did have 6, actually. I combined my number 3 in 2 shows that I thought were quite similar. They came out before, but we watched in the season, and that is Ozark and Yellowstone. Because they're just both so, like, hardcore, just down and dirty, and so... But we still watched all 30 or so episodes at the time of Ozark in like a week. And then towards the end of 2020, we got into Yellowstone and watched the first 2 seasons or whatever at that point that were out. And so we love those. I had Ted Lasso at number 2 only because there were only 10 episodes. And then number 1, Schitt's Creek, because I watched the entire series twice during 2020. So I guess that was the show of 2020 for me.
Yeah. What that's a bingo, or what is that? When
Did we all have it number
all
1?
3 at number 1? Yeah.
I think we did. That's a
Position,
bingo.
yeah.
Yep. Excellent.
All right. Gifford, do you know who else is on our bingo card?
Wait.
Well,
You know
hold
who
on
else?
now.
What do we got to do, Pete?
Oh, we got to close the yearbook.
Yeah, it's the end of 2020.
Sorry,
That's
I
right.
forgot.
Sign the yearbook and close it.
That's our catchphrase.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You can open it up on Buy Me a Coffee anytime and sign it and join us, become our classmate there. We'd love to read your yearbook comment.
Yep.
Be
Check
a
out the
classmate.
extracurriculars that we have posted on there as well.
If you don't want to
Donate.
do it on there, you can also just sign our yearbook by conversing with us on any social media, please. Or in
Mhm.
person if we know
or
you.
Just, or just call us. Or just call us.
You
know.
can give us
I
a
mean,
review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify now takes reviews. You can do so many things that we would appreciate.
First and
Do
foremost,
it
just
all.
listen and enjoy. That's really all we want you to really.
Or
That's
actually
the
best-
most important thing.
Yes.
If you're doing that though, the very best thing of all, tell a friend. Find somebody who would like it and
Mhm.
just go directly to the source and say, "Hey, check out these 3 morons. They're pretty okay."
If you're looking for a good icebreaker, just bring it up to them and say, "Have you listened to Pop Culture Yearbook?"
That's a great way to
And
start.
That will
Hey,
start
wait
a
a minute. What's
conversation.
Pop Culture Yearbook? That
Beautiful.
sounds interesting.
Yes, exactly.
Well, let me
see
tell
that
you.
You see that beautiful woman that you're too scared to approach? That's your opening line right there. It's gonna
Wow.
work. I guarantee it.
All right. Well, we'll be back next week with 1999.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, I can't wait.
That was Prince, right? Not Preacher Row that sang that song?
That was Prince.
I don't know, but Preacher
I
Row
don't
could have done it. They're pretty good.
They
I
are.
like to listen to them a little bit. A little standing on my own 2 feet.
All right.
like it.
There you go. You like that?
I love it.
I love it.
I like it too. There
All
it
right,
is.
We will see you guys next week.
Sounds great.
Be a goldfish, everybody. Be a goldfish.
See ya.
Standing on my own 2 feet. No one's here to comfort me. Sorry for what I have done. Sorry that your son is gone. 7 steps and it will be my last. Next time, tell me on my back. I turn and I look to you. I'm scared, but there's nothing I can do.